or 95% of people who have been abused, or the 94% of abusers are people who are known to the child. So that means relatives, uncles, aunties, family members, or people who are known to the child. So these aspects make it harder. And in the process of grooming, it is very easy to find a child, maybe, in the area, in the locality. And so grooming then begins. The person tries to familiarize the touch or normalize the touch. Okay. So I just want to also add that this will be recorded, because I don't know if you are able to go live on YouTube at the same time. So this session is being recorded, just letting you all know. Yes. So the child, the perpetrator tries to familiarize the touch. For example, they might touch the child or shake hands with the child, a very normal gesture in front of the child's caregivers or the parents. So the child starts feeling like, oh, it's okay if this person touches me. Even my parents are not really saying anything. So the touch starts getting normalized. And eventually, when the touch is normalized, the child thinks that it's completely fine. And the perpetrator continues to do this alone with the child as well. And continues to tell the child things like, it's okay, it's a secret, it's a game. When they are very small children, they really do believe that it's a secret or a game. Or if they are adolescents, they might say, yeah, I'm in love with you, or we love each other, and this is what people do when they're in love. So these are the things in which a person may groom a child. There's guilt and shame, because when these things happen, it happens by someone we trust. And it's a very confusing state of being. For example, when there's a favorite uncle or auntie, we like the person, but when they come and hug us really tight and pull our cheeks, we don't like the act. So we don't like the behavior, but we may like the person. And there's a big confusion there as to what do I do and how do I navigate this? And oftentimes there's a lot of guilt, like, should I say something about this person because he or she is a nice person, or they are a nice person? So there's a lot of guilt, and there's also shame that the body was violated, but I can't really speak up about it. And there's this silence around talking about bodies, and silence around talking about being touched, and any of these things. So it becomes much more difficult for the child to then speak up about these things. At a young age, we teach our children to, we say shame, don't walk around in the house without your shirt or clothes. So we already bring this culture of shame and silence around the body and private body parts. Now, it was my fault. The child will think that it is their fault, because children think in very black and white or concrete thinking. That means, a child feels like, if I do something bad, I am a bad child. And if I do something good, I will get a star and I'm a good child. And so oftentimes the abuser tells the child that, it is your fault because you were naughty. That's why this is happening to you. Because you did that thing your mother told you not to. That's why this is happening to you. You deserve this. And it is your fault. So the child really internalizes this, that, yeah, this is probably my fault. And, I'm a bad child, or I'm naughty, and this is why it's happening. And pleasure, one of the people also mentioned on the chat box here, which is a very important factor, because our bodies and our genitals are made in such a way that they have a lot of nerve endings, and they are sensitive to touch. And if they are touched in a certain way, the body physiologically feels pleasure. And so this further confuses the child, because the body may be feeling pleasure, but the mind and the emotional aspect is confused, or you feel like you're frozen. You get into a freeze mode, right? Like if a car is coming at you and you're in the middle of the road, you might just freeze. You might run, you might get into fight mode. Or you might get into flight mode, you might run away, or you might be ready to fight. And if you can't fight, you'll run away. And if you can't do either of them, you'll just freeze in that moment. You'll completely disengage. You'll not know what to do, and you can't think in that moment rationally. And so the body freezes. And oftentimes this happens for CSA survivors. When the abuse is happening, a lot of people say, I didn't know what to do because I was frozen. I didn't know what words to say. I didn't know how to move or what to do in that moment. And that also makes them feel like, yes, I should have done something. It's definitely my fault. And the body feels pleasure, and sometimes the perpetrator uses that against them. For example, if the victim or survivor may get an erection, or may not say anything, or the perpetrator may say, yeah, see, you liked it, your body liked it, and you felt pleasure. And so it's very confusing, and it's important to understand these dimensions also, which stop a person from speaking up about abuse. The second part of this is the primary caregivers. Now, the most important factor is that there's the family unit. So if abuse happens within the family, then the child may be afraid that the family unit is going to break. People are going to be apart. They're going to live separately just because of me, just because I spoke up. Losing a source of income. Many times the family may have just one parent, a single parent, or just one earning member in the family who has been the abuser. And so that is at stake. The child may feel like, okay, this person, will leave, and then what? Who will earn? Or there's a lack of support system for the child to speak up at home, or for the child to just share that this is happening to them, or their own support system, which must be their mother or father. They have been the abuser. So who does the child really speak to about this? So there is further silence. There's no room to speak up. And largely at a societal level, there are deeper issues. On a systemic issue, there's patriarchy. Young boys always are silenced because they are told not to express themselves, not to cry, not to show their emotions, not to express sadness, or otherwise they are weak. So oftentimes survivors or victims of sexual abuse who are male, they might feel like, should I really speak up, or can I speak up? There's shame, or patriarchy stops them from speaking up or expressing. There are lopsided power dynamics, and there are taboos around sex and sexuality as well. For example, forget talking about sex and sexuality, even talking about our feelings. We don't really talk about our feelings. If someone were to say, oh, I'm sad today, or I'm feeling I'm feeling really pained by this experience, we don't really know how to respond. And so when even someone talks about sex or sexual health and hygiene, if a child wants to just talk about what's going through their body during puberty, who do they really go to? So there's already so much taboo and closed doors around topics like this. So how does a child then speak up about sexual abuse? Then reputation. There's a fear that we're a very collectivist culture, so there's a fear that the neighbors will speak up, or if we file a case, or we make this public, or we speak up about it, the area, there'll be a bad name, or the reputation will go low, or the status is at stake. So social status, all of these things. And powerful positions. If a person is if the abuser may be in a powerful position, it becomes all the more difficult for a person to speak up, because they have money on their side, they have influence on their side. Or even if the victim comes from a powerful family, then it becomes difficult for them to speak up about it, because they don't want to lose the status or the reputation. So there are a lot, or a host of things that stop a child who is one of the most vulnerable members in our society, and makes it even more difficult for them to really speak up. So this helps us understand that it's not just with parents, but it's on a individual level, on a traumatic level, on psychological level, emotional level, on a family level, and on a societal level. It's on a completely overall view of what makes it difficult for children to speak up. So let's do a small short activity now, which is if you can think of someone you share your personal things with, okay, and if you can reflect on why you like to share with that person particularly. Who is it that you share your clothes with, or your food with, or you like to share your books with this person, or you like to share your secrets or just feelings or thoughts with this person, and why do you like to share with this particular person? If you can take a minute and take some time and think about it, what are the characteristics or what are the qualities that this person has? If you can share in the chat box, it would be great, and we will actually fill it in the next slide. We'll fill it out, the characteristics. So trust, Priyanka says trusted. Yeah, you trust them. Trust, loyalty, unconditional acceptance, non-judgmental. Yeah, trust safety, because they're not judging me, they're taking me seriously, they respect and take care of things, they listen, they accept. There's a safe space. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, they do not interrogate or interrupt. They love. Yeah, great points. Yeah, they don't blame. Yeah, sharing should be like sharing things with myself. It should be, yeah, they don't ask unnecessary questions. Yeah, they will believe me without any judgment. They will accept and believe me what I have to say. Yeah, yeah, and they'll understand me, they'll understand my experience, they'll understand what I'm trying to say and convey to them, and they won't doubt, they won't question it, they won't harm me. Yes, they won't invalidate. That's a very important aspect. Yes, they won't invalidate, they won't make your experience any lesser, they won't trivialize your experience or what you've gone through, and they won't use that information against you. That's also a very important thing. Yes, they will give you time, they will give you space and time. Yeah, 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 and they'll keep a secret as it is. They will respect that secret for what it is. They will not kind of share it, they will keep it confidential. So all of these things are important and huge characteristics and qualities that kind of help us be able to fully trust and share and open up with an individual and with the close person. And all of these things are equally important when it comes to how children can openly and freely speak up. If these things do not exist, or yes, getting space, giving space, yes. So when a child discloses about child sexual abuse, when they disclose to a primary caregiver, and the first reaction they get is shock or fear or denial, children can pick up emotions very easily. And the minute they see that on the person's face, there's shock or there's disgust or there's anger or there's denial on the face, they will immediately withdraw and retreat, and they will stop wanting to share further. And that happens to us as well, right? The minute we share something with a friend and the friend goes like or makes a weird face or is a little bit like apprehensive, we feel like, okay, I should not tell you the whole story, I should cut out some parts. And so a child will automatically withdraw and feel like, I don't want to share this, and it's going to be so much more harder. But the minute we have a non-judgmental face or a neutral face, the minute we say, yeah, tell me, and we're open to listening to whatever they have to say, good, bad, horrible, great, irrespective, then the child feels like, okay, there's a sigh of relief, nothing happened, this person is still listening, nothing's going to happen. Usually when we ask children, even the youngest children, when we ask them, will you tell your parents or will you tell someone if anyone breaks your body safety rule or touches you in your private parts, and they always say, nahi mummy chillaenge, papa gussa karenge, right? That's the first thing that comes to their mind, even the smallest children, because they automatically, that's how we kind of react when these things happen. We don't like to see children in pain, but then we also get angry at them for that. And so that reaction is unfortunately not helpful, but it's a response. When we react on impulse, but when we respond with care, and we are able to really think and be aware of how we want to respond. So it's not impulsive. So these things are important qualities when a child has disclosed, or when we are disclosing to someone. We want that safe space. We want someone to be non-judgmental, and we want someone to respect our experience. We want someone to give us that safe space and kind of believe us. And it's very important for primary caregivers to also tell the child, I believe you, and it's not your fault. Because that's something we also say in our programs to children, that even if it happened 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and whatever you were wearing or whatever you were doing, irrespective, it is never your fault. The only person who has broken your body safety rule, it is their fault. And that has to be put into the mind of the child, because they internalize that it is their fault. So it's very important to understand that, and not ask unnecessary questions, as one of the participants shared, because the more unnecessary questions you ask, like, oh, where were you? What were you doing? who was this? These are irrelevant questions. Whether survivor or the victim may feel like, okay, why is she or he asking me these questions? Do they not believe me? Why are they asking so many questions? So it starts to feel like, yeah, why should I even continue? Why should I keep sharing? So these are important qualities and characteristics that can help us, be it with a friend, be it with any individual, a stranger even. These are the qualities that can help us create and build safe spaces for people, and hopefully society at large, to be able to speak up about such things. Um, and to lastly, I mean, there's a Socratic style of questioning, which is the next slide here that we go. This is the what, why, and how question. Now, I mean, this is not about how you can ask someone directly, because asking someone directly what happened may not necessarily be the right thing. It can be actually, a person may not like to be asked that. But if I were to ask a close-ended question like, yeah, did this happen to you? Um, the answer may just be yes or no. Yes, it did happen, or no, it didn't happen. Or if I say, oh, do you feel happy or do you feel excited? And the answer will just be yes, I feel happy, or no, I don't feel happy. The answer is very limited to yes or no. Isn't this better or isn't that better? Yeah, this is better, or no, this is not better. So if it's limited to a yes and no question, it's a close-ended question. The answer is always going to be yes and no. And especially for a child, they are not going to answer perhaps in these ways, and they will just answer to, yes and no, and that's about it. But Socratic style of questioning is to go and get open a dialogue with a person, to kind of start with questions like what and how, more open-ended questions that widen and deepen the conversation, and not necessarily to get information. Our role is not really to just get more information and detail about, oh, what happened, where and how, but it's to kind of give the space to say that, okay, what would you like to share with me? Or it's completely fine, I'm here if you need me, or I'm here to listen, and it's okay if you don't want to talk either. How did that make you feel? Or what, where is your mind taking you, or where is your mind at? Or I'm here to support if you need to talk, or some things like that. Or questions like how and what kind of open a dialogue. And if the person feels like, yeah, maybe I can give you a description of what happened, that gives them more space to articulate what they're feeling. Usually people who have experienced some kind of traumatic um, experience, they might not have the words to say, because the rational brain kind of shuts down and the alarm center of the brain is on alert. And so it may become really difficult in that moment to be able to find the words. A lot of people say they went blank. Imagine when you had an accident and you were bleeding, did you really know what to do? Did you think, oh, where's my phone, or where do I have to go next? No, you kind of shut down. You don't know what to do. Your body goes into complete shutdown. You can't really engage with people. You don't know where you're at. You don't know which place you're in, until you finally get grounded and oriented into the present moment. And so it's very important for us to understand that when a person has experienced trauma, they may have blanked out, or they may be dissociating, they may not be in the present moment, and asking even questions may not be even helpful in that moment. They might not even have the words, they might not know what to say, or they might even have a lot to say. So but it's important to not ask close-ended questions and very limiting questions like this, which is, yeah, tell, did it happen, did it not happen, let's move on. Okay, let's go out to eat, you'll be better. Or let's go out for a coffee, you'll be fine, and everything will pass, this too shall pass. So it's a very kind of, we're trying to push and move past the issue versus talking about it. So Socratic style of questioning can be helpful in even relationships, and any kind of relationships, even with friends, when we ask an open dialogue with someone. After this, we have how can we break the silence around child sexual abuse. One very important thing is body boundaries. Body boundaries are something that we teach children from the ages of 4 to the ages of even 18 plus. body boundaries are something that we never really learn in society. We never really learn that we are the boss of our own body, or we have personal space, or that our space is our space. We are in a culture which is very, if someone says they want space, we take it like, oh, this person is ignoring us, they want to be left alone. We understand space as separation, or they want to separate from us. But space is actually very healing and very important, right? And personal space is also very important. We tell children as young as 2 and 3 that it's important to have your own little personal space. No one should touch you, no one should touch your body. And just like how you might want to give someone a high five, you can't give someone a high five unless the other person gives you their hand as well, unless they consent to the high five. You can't really take their hand and make them give you a high five, so you can't make their hand shake your hand unless you get that response. So it's very important to teach children body boundaries from a very young age, to let them know that even something like, if I want to take a pencil or I want to take an eraser, it's important to ask their permission no matter how young they are. Because in our culture also, we have this idea or mindset that if you're older, you have more more say in things. And if you're older, then yes, you can do more things and all of those things. But if you're younger, you have to kind of obey the older. And so there's that dynamic that exists that doesn't oftentimes give much agency to children. It's almost like young children are helpless and they don't have agency, and we don't respect that sense of agency and individuality that children have. And it's important to do that by respecting body boundaries as parents or as older siblings as well. I mean, just like no one would pull your cheeks in the middle of the road, we should also think twice before we pull a child's cheek or a random stranger's child's cheek on the road, right? Or we just try to hold a child or put them on our lap just simply because they're a baby. So we don't respect their body boundaries at that point of time. And it's important to teach children that no matter how young or no matter how old you are, your body is your body. And oftentimes we tell children the idea of personal things. There are some things which are just yours that you don't share with anyone. What are those things? Your uniform maybe, or your personal diary, or some children say, yeah, my body is my personal thing. And so it's important to understand that our body is a personal thing, and no one should touch our body or our private parts. And so as parents, as elder siblings, if we if we start modeling that behavior by telling children, oh, can I hug you, can I shake your hand, is it okay if I shake your hand? And I know it sounds a little weird to say that. We're not imagine telling your own child, oh, can I shake your hand, or can I give you a kiss? But that's teaching the child at a young age and modeling that behavior. Because no matter how much we tell children and give them advice and give them wisdom, children learn from modeling. They learn from watching, they learn from observing. And when children look at their adults and they learn from their environment, they start realizing, oh, if my mother or my father, being such an elderly person, is asking my permission to hug me or kiss me, then that is something I should also do when I want to hug or kiss a person or take their things or any of those things. So the idea of consent and respect is something that is very important to be inculcated from a young age. And it's never too late to learn. Even if the child is old, or even us today, we can always relearn and unlearn things. And so it's important to remember that body boundaries is an important aspect. If a child is really uncomfortable, we shouldn't force the child to kiss a relative, hug this uncle, hug this auntie, they are come after many years, talk to that uncle, talk to that auntie or that cousin. So we already push children into doing these things that they are not really comfortable with, and we don't really ask for their consent. So it's important to even ask children that, are you really comfortable with talking to this person? And if you're not, it's okay. So it's completely fine if you don't like to talk to this person, or you don't feel like talking to this person. So this opens up the possibility of choice and agency. The child starts feeling like, oh, wait, I have options. I have alternatives. If I speak up about my feelings, there is an alternative that I can do. I can feel better. I don't have to sit in this place. I don't have to sit with this person, and I don't have to be silent. So the silence is then broken when we start opening conversation about body boundaries, when we start respecting and we start modeling behavior within ourselves. Um, Sexuality education is an important aspect in India and the world, because of course we don't teach children even in I think in all areas of school, yes, even though it's compulsory in ICSE schools, I think, but it's still not really embedded into the system, into the education system, right? We still don't teach children about body safety. We don't teach children about private body parts. And we don't teach children about the names of their private body parts. We teach children everything from these are the eyes, these are our ears, this is our head, this is our stomach, and we automatically, after stomach, we go to legs, and after legs we go to knees, and we are done with the teaching body to children, to really small children in nursery school. And when we ask children, oh, what is the part after the stomach, they automatically say legs, because no one teaches them about the private body parts. So the problem is that they don't know the names of the private body parts. There's suddenly this silence around it. There's suddenly a shame around it. Like, okay, we are not supposed to talk about this. So there might be laughter around it, as they grow up. And there's we don't know the words around it either. So just give me a second. Yes. So, and that is, sexuality education is very important for this very reason, because it's not only when we start teaching about private body parts and puberty when the child is reaching puberty. We actually teach them body boundaries when they are in the first grade or even senior KG, when they are able to understand the sense of self and the body, when they're able to understand and name private body parts. And of course, they may not know the parts like, penis, vagina, when they are maybe that young, but we teach them, like, the susu ke jaga, potty ke jaga, or the parts behind our underwear, and the chest and the lips. And these are the private body parts that no one should be touching. But oftentimes there are situations where the child does not know the name of the private body part. So they might just say, oh, my stomach is paining, or my back is paining, but they don't know the name. Or they might just use a different name, and the parent may just not understand what is really going on. They might feel like, okay, someone is, maybe your stomach is paining, so let's go to the doctor, but they don't know that it's the private body part that the child is referring to. So it's so important for a child to at least know that these are my private body parts. And as they grow older, it's important to teach them private body part names, that these are the functions of our genitals are, for excretion, for secretion, for, for pleasure. They are there are functions just like they're a part of our body, just like every other part of our body. And so when we normalize the conversation about private body parts, it becomes something finally that we can talk about. People are not awkward about it. Children are actually quite curious to understand. And there's always this myth, if we teach them, then they will, start getting scandalized, or they will be, so threatened, or they'll be weirded out. But it's not the case, because in our experience, we've always found that children are curious, and when they finally understand, they have a deeper understanding of the issue, and they are better equipped to keep themselves safe, because now they know that no one should actually be touching me, even playfully, even on the playground. If someone is hitting me on my private body parts, even in a funny way, or even if my friends are doing this, because at the playground, boys do this often as a game, and so that is wrong too. That means if someone is breaking your body safety rule. And so when we inculcate body boundary and sexuality education about private body parts, we break the silence around these things, and children finally have the words to explain and articulate that this is what is happening to them, and they have the courage to speak up no matter what. And we've often seen this in our programs as well. Children are able to finally share. And we always tell them it's okay if it happened 10 years ago, or it's okay if it happened yesterday and you couldn't tell anyone. That's also okay, because the mind gets into a state of shock, and we might not have the space to speak. So it's okay, and it's never your fault, even if you don't have the words. And even if you say this 10 years later to someone, or 5 years later, it's important to break that silence by, through body boundaries and sexuality education. Yes, and finally we have another part of actually body boundaries is that not leaving a child alone in the room, and making sure that as a parent and a caregiver we can kind of ensure and be vigilant, and keep children safe by being vigilant and aware, and of course teaching them, so that even when they are alone, be it at school or wherever they are, they still know how to keep themselves safe. Lastly, we have in this slide, the last slide, we actually have a number of resources that you can reach out to and you can call. Majlis is a legal center for women's rights, and handles the legal aspect of things. Because we are not legal experts, we work in the area of healing and awareness and prevention. So we do programs and counseling sessions. We also have free counseling, and you can find that in our bio, in our Instagram bio. And Majlis is an organization that you can call if you ever need legal help or legal advice in the area of reporting child sexual abuse. Prerna is another organization that protects children and women from human trafficking. The Child Welfare Committee is a committee that is set up all over India, to file reports against CSA. So going to your nearest CWC, you can just Google it online. You'll find your nearest CWC. There's POXO e-box. If you know of the POXO Act 2012, there's an e-box. There's an online filing system to write your report and file your report. You can actually type out exactly what happened and send it, and it will do its due diligence. And ARAM has an online reporting imagery, any kind of images or child sexual abuse material online, it can be reported on this site. And we always give this number to children, which is 1098. It's the child line helpline, which is specifically for children all over. It's pan India, and even in the rural parts of India, it is all over India. So children can call this number anytime, and you can call this number as well if you would like to report an incident that you've seen. So that they can take it further. There's the women's helpline, which is 103-181 1091. And what we teach children also, and it's important, because now during the time of COVID, we do a lot of the work online, and so children and survivors and victims may be at home during this time, and Childline received the largest or highest number of calls from children during the period of the lockdown and the pandemic. And children find it more difficult to speak up because they are in a space confined with their abuser. And because of that, it's more difficult to speak up. Children are now studying online. So using the distress signal for survivors, which is... okay, someone's... audio is on. So, yeah. So this is the distress signal for survivors, and you can teach that to people, that on video you can just kind of do this gesture, and you can let me... okay, sorry. If Hina, you can just mute the person. Yeah, thank you. So that's a distress signal. So when we teach children distress signals, they are better equipped. Sometimes they may not have a word, and sometimes a parent gave this example of using a password system, which is like red panda or yellow elephant, where it's only a word that a child and the parent uses, or the primary caregiver uses. And so suppose the child is in distress, suppose the child cannot articulate what they're feeling, or they're in a space where they can't speak up, they will just say yellow elephant or red panda, and the parent or the primary caregiver will understand, okay, the child is in distress. the child is facing some kind of distress and I need to be there for them. So this is a signal that is also very helpful and important. And these are the resources. You can, of course, reach out to Rubaroo for any kind of help that you need. And we'll be taking any questions. If you've asked any questions, if there are any doubts and clarifications that I may have missed out, or you wanted to clarify, feel free to ask, or put your questions out here, and we would be glad to answer them in whichever capacity we are able to.
Can we join Rubaroo as a volunteer?
Yes, you definitely can. If you go to our Instagram link tree, there's an option to volunteer with us, and there are details as to what area you would like to volunteer with us. So, it could be any of those, and you can just apply definitely and volunteer with us.
I had a question. So you have mentioned that closed-ended questions might not work. So I was just thinking, what if the child is unable to speak at all? Will there any chance of closed-ended questions help, there in that system?
Correct. Yeah. And I think sometimes when the child is not able to really even find the words or articulate, sometimes grounding techniques or stabilizing the child may help, because even if we do ask yes or no, yes, that may probably actually help. And that's possibly a good point, because maybe, they don't know what to say, or they don't have the words, or they're not in the present moment to even speak up. And they might say, in a crisis situation, they might say, yes and no, and we may get some basic understanding of what has happened. But it's important to also help them stabilize and come to the present moment. So there are certain grounding techniques, or we can even ask them, what do you see around you in the room, very gently, without really startling them, without really touching them, gently asking them, can you breathe in? Can you notice any color in the room from left to right? So they start getting, some kind of clarity of the present moment. They so these are some ways we can bring their attention and focus back to the present moment. Asking them to sit with their back onto the chair, or keeping their feet to the ground. Asking them what are the things they can name inside the room. Can you see a chair? Can you see 5 things in the room? So these things help them. It's not, we're not asking them about the incident at all, because that was traumatizing enough. We are just asking them now, what is happening in the present moment? Can you see something? Can you see colors? So they're able to notice and come back to the present gradually. And once they're able to come in the present, we can find a better way to actually get information. We can, record. We can ask them, okay, I will be recording, or we can note down. So we don't have to ask them unnecessary questions again and again, or ask them to repeat the incident again and again. So once they're in the present moment, once they're stabilized, once they maybe have had a glass of water and they're feeling a little more safer to share, they can easily, probably be more comfortable to open up and share. And from our end, we can try to make that space safer. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. That helps.
How can I teach children to identify grooming? A participant has asked. Okay. So yeah.
I'm
sure.
so sorry. I'd just like to clarify that. So grooming is a little difficult for even adults to identify, right? That's the problem. And how do I teach a child, even if I had to learn it myself, that is difficult. How do I teach a child to learn things like manipulation and these are a little complex emotions. And the other part is that I'm going to be asking the child to stop trusting somebody he calls a friend, or somebody he really trusts. So that's a little difficult. It's a very difficult relationship to explain to the child. So could you tell me how to deal with that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking. Because children also, to kind of literally teach them that, anyone can do this thing. And, how do you not trust a friend, and how do you kind of separate friendship from the behavior and from the act that they've done. And it's I think the crux of this again goes back to body boundaries and feelings. When we teach children also, we talk to them about feelings, that there are some feelings which are sort of safe and some feelings which may be unsafe. For example, you feel angry when your best friend breaks your toy, or you feel angry when your best friend pushes you, or you feel really happy when it's your birthday. And but for example, we teach them that there are some feelings like anger, sadness, confusion, fear. If they repeatedly keep happening with someone constantly, I mean, it's normal to be angry and sad and scared and afraid, but or confused during a class. But if you're constantly feeling these feelings around someone or a group of people or in a situation, then it must be an unsafe situation. Because constantly, if you're going around someone and they're always making you feel unsafe or insecure or worried or scared or nervous or fearful, then you know that that's an unsafe person, or the situation is unsafe, or you are feeling unsafe. So we teach children to listen to their gut feeling, and that is definitely a skill that has to be developed. Because when we open vocabulary about feelings, I mean, if we ask children, oh, how do you feel, they'll just say good, and they'll feel bad, because that's what we say, right? If I ask anyone here, I'm feeling good and bad, but those are states of being, they're not feelings. Feelings are actually excited, happy, worried, scared, anxious, nervous, tensed, and confusion is a very complex emotion, because confusion is usually, we say, an unsafe feeling. If I'm confused about what to wear today, that's one kind of confusion. But there's a other kind of confusion that, I'm sitting in a bus and there are all these seats vacant, but one person sticks to me and sits next to me, even though all of these seats are empty. And that makes me feel very confused, because I'm like, there's a gut feeling that this is weird, this makes no sense. All of these seats are empty. So that is confusion. And when we teach them that, yeah, there's a word for that feeling, it's confusion, and it's probably unsafe. So it helps to identify that when you're in an unsafe situation, no matter what and no matter where, it's important to get out of that situation. And we usually teach them the body safety rules. That is, when you're feeling unsafe anywhere, with anyone, with your teacher, with a family member, with a friend, with strangers, it's important to speak up and to say no. And even if you don't say no, push away the hand, or get out from that situation and tell a trusted adult. So it's important to have a trusted adult, like your person who is above 18 preferably, who can help and assist the child, and who will believe the child. So these things are important, the language and vocabulary of feeling, because to, of course, teach manipulation and things like that can be tricky for children. And it's hard to kind of do that, I agree. But it helps when we give them the language of feelings, and then they start coming to you and say, actually today in school I felt weird, I felt uncomfortable, I felt not so great. And they are already opening that language of feelings to you, because then you're able to say, oh, what made you feel sad, what made you feel uncomfortable today? And then they'll elaborate, oh, my friend did this, I did that, and they have so much to share. Or you ask them, oh, what about you want to draw what you felt? Or we have this heart map, which is like, color what you're feeling. If you're feeling happy, then fill the heart with 80% happiness, 20% sadness. So there are so many ways in which we can bring the language of feelings to children, where they start opening up and feel like, oh, I can actually talk about things, even if they are unsafe feelings, I can kind of bring them up. So I hope
it has more to do with teaching them to identify how they feel rather than to identify the behavior of the perpetrator.
Yes, because the behavior can always be so complex to simple, and it can be mixed, and we never know, right? Like, behaviors can range. They can learn all the behaviors and memorize and keep preparing for all those behaviors, but it's only within themselves when they understand that there's this vague gut feeling that they can understand and identify that, yeah, this is probably unsafe, and I should, this is not a good thing for me at the moment. And from our experience, yes, when we talk to children, they are much more equipped by the end of our programs to be able to identify, yeah, actually that's unsafe, if a person, and we teach them accidental violation as well. What if you're changing in the room and someone by mistake opens the door and says, oh my god, I'm so sorry, and walks away. and that's an accidental violation. You automatically know. When we live in families with many members of the family, we're changing and someone by mistake sees us and then we shut the door, we forget to lock the door from within, we know it's a mistake. It's very intuitive. But if someone is purposely like coming and knows when the child is bathing, or knows when the child is changing and opens the door and is speaking, there's an automatic shot of this is off, there's something off here. So we teach them that also, that sometimes there's an accidental violation and sometimes there's a direct violation, and it's very important to identify those things. And that's why we do our programs every year and every 6 months preferably, so that children are able to constantly be in touch with body boundaries, constantly be in touch with these body safety rules as well.
Apphia, can I just add something?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. So, Sonali, like I understand that when we actually speak about grooming and understand about grooming, there's a trusted person who is doing that, and kind of break the cycle of grooming can be very difficult. And therefore, with like what Apphia said, I'm just continuing that with body boundaries, safety, understanding safe, unsafe, it's very important to build that open communication with the person, because maybe like the part of grooming is making the child comfortable, and I understand that child may not think that it is unsafe situation he or she is in, and therefore communication helps there better, like having open ended communication, having like encouraging children to talk about their feelings or experiences, help the trusted adult to understand that if the child is experiencing any safe or unsafe situation, or if a person is grooming maybe by showing something, by touching, or by spending time. So it's a combination of body boundaries, understanding emotions, and keeping that channel of communication open. So I think this will help to kind of break that cycle of grooming.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I think we have 2 minutes left, and if anyone would like to ask any further questions, please feel free to ask. And
yes, Apphia.
Yeah.
Actually, you have described everything in a very lucid manner, and I appreciate your efforts. The thing is, I want to know that sometimes what culprit do is they means differently able child sometimes becomes the victim in this. So and it is very difficult. Somewhat it is difficult to know the feelings of the differently able child who cannot describe in the words. Yes. So how can we do in that form?
Yeah, I think in cases like this, when the child is differently abled also, it becomes so much more harder, and then we have to be, as primary caregivers, very vigilant about the child's safety, and also know our rights, because if the POCSO Act also kind of has specific rights on how children are supposed to be treated when a case is being reported, or how if the child is differently abled, or if the child does not speak in the language, or the child is visually impaired, or the child is allowed to have a translator or an interpreter or a special educator with them. So all of these things, the way it has to be done very sensitively. And so even for differently abled children, I think it's important in ways to make sure that we understand to some level, we are able to communicate with them on some level of what is safe and unsafe in whatever way they are able to they're able to convey with us and communicate with each other, because there must be some connection between the primary caregiver and a child, right? Like the mother or father may know, or the parent may know, yeah, my child is hungry. They might not say it directly, but they understand. So similarly, if there's a way to teach the child, we as Rubaroo have also tried to learn Indian Sign Language, so that we also try to become more inclusive in our learning and education, because it has to be inclusive, and we have to teach children, no matter what, that even in actions, if we can teach them, just saying no to this part, no to this part, even if we just do that again and again. No one should touch your body except for teacher, or except this person. Yes and no. Maybe it would take a lot more patience and a lot more time with differently able children, perhaps, and we have to find a way where they understand best. where they understand and how they kind of consolidate information. So we have to find ways to, keep them safe and be vigilant in those ways, you know, in whatever capacity we are able to.
Yes, thank you, Apphia.
You're
Can I
welcome.
ask one more question?
Sure.
Actually, it is not related to child sex abuse. It is related to the drugs abuse. In my locality, I have seen. I just want to refer you any NGO or any health worker so I can get a help. In my area, I have got some children who roam on. They are street boys. They don't have any home to live, or they would have. I'm not clear about it. But they use a very local and very cheap drug. You might know it's called slow churn. And when I met with my COCT and I told her that this is what happening, then she asked the possession. If we have to arrest or we have to do any action, we want the possession of the child. So I was helpless at that time. Could you tell me anything about on this?
So we are an organization that doesn't, of course, work in that field, and so we can talk to you personally. You can DM us on Instagram or email us, and we can definitely reach out to you and take this personally. No issues. We can, direct you to organizations that may know and work in that field. So for sure, yeah, we can do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for being interactive and participative. This was a really fruitful session for me. I was glad that you all were able to participate and share. And thank you so much. And I hope it was helpful. So, yes.
Special thanks to you, Apphia. This was really a worthy webinar and really thankful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
त्यांना मम्मी भरवत होती म्हणून मी नाही आली.
Wonderful webinar, Apphia. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. You can reach out to us with our email, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, all of you. I have ended the live streaming. I'll be ending this meeting. Thank you so much